All right, welcome into the Auburn Live show. Appreciate everybody joining us. Make sure you go to auburnlive.com and subscribe if you haven't already. I think it's 50% off right now, so take advantage of that. auburnlive.com. It's a good time to do it. Obviously, a lot of football happenings, but more importantly, basketball getting going here in less than a week, exhibition-wise, and then first game November 7th, and we are joined by assistant head coach Stephen Pearl, or assistant coach.
Justin, what's up, man?
What's up? What's up? How's it going, man?
All's well over here. How you doing?
Good, man. Ready for basketball to get going. I think a lot of Auburn fans are. 9 seasons, is that right? Are you entering? Have you been here 9 or 10 years now on staff?
Yeah, we're starting year 9 right now, and it's kind of hard to believe every time you say it, but we finished up season 8 and starting up season 9, so it's been crazy.
I mean, is it how different is it now compared to when year 1 or 2, just in terms of I don't know, whatever, culture, vibe, like how smooth things are running? I mean, do you just think back to that time and it's like night and day? It's like a different program, or how different is it?
I think the biggest thing that's changed is probably just the expectations. Every year, like, we're working just as hard to try and put a product on the floor that obviously Auburn fans can be proud of, and but the work hasn't changed. It's still a tough job in a really tough league, and that's how it's always been. But just to see where it started when we first walked into that locker room, and you looked at that roster at the time, and KT Harrell is probably your only high major player on that roster, but you have a bunch of guys that had kind of been beat down and wanted to win, and to see that team win 15 games, make a little run in the SEC tournament, to struggle for the next 2 years, and then to see what it's done in the last 5 years, it's been kind of amazing. Obviously, as we've continued to have success, the Auburn families, stayed behind us and continue to support us. And, to see, obviously, going undefeated in Neville Arena last year, to win 3 championships in the last 5 years, to see the support we've had on the road, having a couple thousand fans on the road when you go into Alabama, Mississippi State, Georgia, Ole Miss, like, that's Auburn basketball now. And that used to be something that Kentucky or Tennessee and then those schools did. Now we're doing it. And to see that, come to fruition over the past 8 years has been a really, really incredible thing. And it's been really been enjoyable along the way.
That's still surreal. I mean, I don't think Auburn fans will appreciate what's going on right now until it's over. Like, I think it's one of those things where you're in it and you just, it's still surreal to think about. Auburn basketball has won a championship, regular season or tournament championship, in 3 of the last 5 years. That is, like, you have to stop and think about that. The people that watched Auburn basketball in the last 20 years, or I guess 15 years or whatever, until you guys arrived. I mean, it is almost unfathomable. I mean, if you would have asked anybody that paid attention a decade or more ago and said, hey, look, there's going to be a time here real soon where that's going to happen, I couldn't have imagined a scenario. I'd have been like, I almost think it's impossible.
Yeah. I mean, you ask people, like, even people that we recruit were like, when you heard Auburn basketball 8 years ago, would you have guessed that we'd put, we've had 4 first rounders in the last 6 years, 6 guys drafted. We've, like we said, won 3 SEC championships in the last 5 years. We went to a Final Four. Like, think about that. Like, that one right there is the one that kind of blows your mind. And you ask people that, do you think that would have happened, since we've been here? They'd all say no. I mean, the expectation when we first got here, obviously, Auburn basketball needed to become relevant. That was really important to Jay, to DB, to Dr. Goose. Like, they said, we need to make Auburn basketball relevant. We need to get back to the tournament, and have a competitive program again. And, but that wasn't enough for BP. BP is a very competitive, he's always been the best in the league everywhere he's been. This one took a little bit longer than some of his other builds, but it's been incredible. And I always say this to people: it's way more enjoyable to do that here because it's appreciated, whereas at a lot of schools it's expected. It's expected at Kentucky. It's expected at Tennessee. It's expected at Arkansas, right? It's expected at Florida. It's not expected at Auburn. It's appreciated. It's starting to become expected, though, which obviously, makes the job a little harder. But that's what it is at this point, and that's what success brings. And obviously, we're up for the challenge, and we're trying to stay there. We've gotten a taste of it over the last 5 years, and it tastes good. So we want to try and keep it there.
Yeah, you talk about expectations, and yeah, I see it on our message board. I see it on Twitter. You lose. I mean, here's where Auburn basketball is. You lose Jabari Smith and Walker Kessler, 2 first-round draft picks that are having a great first week or so in the NBA, by the way, and you lose those 2 guys. And people on our board, Auburn fans, are like, well, anything less than 12-6 in conference is that's a disappointing season. And you're like, I mean, wow. I mean, the expectations are crazy. You're losing 2 first-rounders, and people they're still adjusting. Like, basketball is kind of like baseball. Like, you play more games. So, man, 11-7 in the league is like, that's a good record to me. But it's crazy. They're like 12-6. Anything less than is disappointing. So I'm like, wow.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's where it's at now.
Yeah.
You look at the league, and the league's just gotten so much better that teams that could finish 9-9 in the SEC can make a run in the NCAA tournament. So, like, the league is a gauntlet, and we won 15 games last year, which is hard to believe in a really good league. So this year that's going to be a tall task because we have a really hard SEC schedule this year. But it's something that we 12-6, it's something that we can do, but at the same time, we understand it's going to be difficult. I think the biggest thing is, obviously understanding what we've done over the last couple of years, but understand that, we want to keep winning championships. That's just kind of what we want to do. And, that's what we've been telling our guys. And I think our guys believe in that now. So, night in, night out, it's a grind, but we have to understand it is a long season. And you got to understand, Arkansas last year lost their first 3 games in conference play. And at the end of the year, like, they were still in it, so like examples like that, got to understand you can't get too high, you can't get too low, and just understand it's a grind through 18 games.
Yeah, especially when you have the home court that Auburn has and Neville. I mean, you're always going to be in it if people keep coming and showing up, and you have the home court advantage that you do. I mean, I was thinking about it yesterday. I'm like, man, if Auburn keeps just if you have those kind of records at home, you're always going to be in it. It's such an insane atmosphere. Let's talk about this team a little bit for people that are still getting to know. Right, you have a lot of guys coming back, but you got some new guys as well. What's it shaping up to be like? What do you think early on? It's still early. I think it's one of the things you're gonna find out a lot, obviously, throughout the non-conference. But early on, what do you think maybe the qualities and attributes of this team are? What should people sort of expect or pay attention to?
I mean, I think for us as a coaching staff, we're still looking for some separation amongst guys on the roster. And I know that you guys have talked about there are still a lot of questions to be answered as far as what this roster is going to look like. But I think what that speaks to is we have 12 good players that could all play. Maybe even 13 if you look at some of the walk-ons. You got our best shooter is Chandler. So like he could find a way to get out there because he's able to make shots. But we do have a lot of options in our rotations. So I think as a staff, we're looking for separation at certain positions to kind of see who's going to be out there. But like as of right now, guys have played well enough, backup and starter for us to be splitting, 20-minute splits as far as, starter and backup. And I think that's a good thing for us because our depth is going to be our strength this year. Whereas last year, you looked at Jabari and Walker; those guys were our strength last year, and we really relied on them heavily to produce for us. But I think this year it's going to be a different guy every single night. You obviously have your returning guards, KD, Wendell, Al, Zepp, Chris, Lior. Like those guys have got to step up to an added role. But understanding that our new guys are really good. This summer, obviously Chance and Yohan and Janai and Trey all had really good summers. Chance obviously being a little dinged up right now, so that's a little bit of a setback for him. But I mean, we replaced, the defensive player of the year and an All-American in Jabari and Walker with probably 2 of the best guys that we could have found either in the portal or as a freshman with Yohan and Janai. Both those guys are really good pieces that we added to an already deep, front court with Jalen and Dylan, and those guys have continued to improve and continue to get better. So, I think obviously our front court will be really good again this year. Our back court, the biggest thing is guys got to make shots. And that's going to be really important for us. Chance, our freshmen are probably 2 of our better shooters in our front or in our backcourt. And Chance not being out there kind of hurts because he shot, mid to high 30s from 3 this year. But it's really going to be important for our guards to be able to knock down open shots this year. Obviously, take care of the ball. I think defensively, we got a chance to be pretty good just because we're going to play so many bodies. We're going to be fresh and we're going to be fast. We're going to be furious. And we have, two or three of the better on-ball defenders in Zep, KD, and Al that'll start our defense for us. That'll really, pick up the tempo and, set the tempo for our guys. And then obviously having shot blockers on that back line to block shots, make plays. But coach isn't going to allow guys to take off possessions. He's going to make guys play hard. That's what we've always done. We want to create some offense from our defense. So it's hard to really say who's going to stand out because I really think that we have 10 to 12 guys that could all, contribute every single night. And it's going to be a different guy every single night that's going to have a big game.
Yeah, Janai Broom's a guy that I think people they're obviously maybe not super familiar. Maybe they've seen what he did at Morehead State. But he comes off to me like, he might be I'm trying to think of low post players in while you guys have been at Auburn that can legitimately score, have moves down there, have the defensive presence that he does. Why Austin was a different kind of player. He was a little raw. Janai to me is maybe the most refined low post guy y'all have. I just think he's going to be incredibly productive, and I can't wait for people to sort of see him. What do you think are some of his best attributes on the offense and defensive end? And shot blocking too, man. He was. Yeah. People talk about Kessler. Wasn't he third in the nation last year in shot? The guy can block shots.
Yeah, on KenPom, Janai was like the 7th rated shot blocker in all the country last year. And, he's kind of showed that in Israel and obviously in practice so far. But Janai's a gamer, man. He in practice, he does well in practice, but in the games is where he's really kind of shown his value and how good he is. But you're right. I think he's the best low block scorer that we've had since we've been at Auburn. He's the one guy, him and Jalen Williams are both really good with their back to the basket making plays. Jalen obviously gets to his jump hook every single time and can shoot those floaters, but Janai's got great footwork and he's able to spin, use his body. He loves to get to his left hand, but even if you shut off his left hand, he's got moves to get back to his left hand. His footwork is really good. He's got great hands. He's got great touch around the rim. So, obviously he's a guy that, Auburn fans haven't seen us, post guys up late game when we need to get a bucket. Janai is going to be the kind of guy that will do that, and he makes free throws. So, to have that threat this year will be a new look for us, and we obviously have to build some of our offense around that. But all of our bigs have done a really good job. Dylan's done a much better job with his jump hooks. Jalen's really good down there. Yohan is really good with the step-ins and finishing it around the rim. So I think we have the best low post scoring that we've had in the 9 years that we've been here will be this year's team. So that'll be a nice added strength for us and something a little different.
Yeah, I was going to ask. So you've got that going on, but then you've got experienced guards coming back in Zep and KD and Wendell, and then of course Chance, who's super talented, and Trey Donaldson, who'll play some minutes or whatever. So how do you? We know how you guys like to play up and down, and those guards, we know KD and Wendell, those guys want to have the ball in their hand and create. Is there an adjustment for those guards? Like, hey, we still want you to be you, but we do have these low post guys. How do we sort of mesh that together where we do work through them sometimes, and it's not always about you creating everything? How do you kind of, I guess, mesh those two styles maybe?
Yeah, I think in transition, obviously KD, Wendell, those guys are going to have the ability. Al, Zep, Trey, Chance, they're going to have the ability in transition to be aggressive, right? Early offense is a good time for the guards to really get down the floor, be aggressive, to either score or obviously advance pass it and let the other guards make plays. But when we get into our half court sets, if you think about our half court sets last year, a lot of our stuff was ran for Jabari. So really just insert some of your low post guys in those actions that we'd run for Jabari, and you're really going to have the same thing. I don't think their roles are going to change too much. The one thing is, obviously they're going to look at the scouting reports from last year and see what bothered our guards, and our guards are going to have to understand that they're going to be guarded the way they were guarded late in the year last year. So what are the adjustments that we have to make? We're going to have to get off the ball and ball screens a little bit more. We're going to have to pitch it ahead and transition, because they understand that those guys are going to want to take tough shots, but they're going to make tough shots. So I don't think their roles are going to change that much. They just got to understand that, we do have that added strength, and all these guys want to win. So they're going to do what's best for the team. And I don't see their roles changing that much, because for us to be good, those guys need to be aggressive. And that's the reason why we won an SEC championship last year, is because guys like KD, Wendell, Zepp. Those guys won us games last year. People tend to forget that when we talk about last season's team. They want to criticize some of the shots they took. No, they were making those shots all year long. Our whole team just kind of staggered offensively towards the end of the year. So for us to be successful, those guys need to stay aggressive, also while understanding we got some strength down low.
Yeah. What have you seen from Wendell? We've written about him. Obviously, we saw, I guess, the other day he's on the Bob Cousy preseason watch list. Just obviously an extremely fun player. He's kind of now in a line of Auburn guards that are just fun to watch in their own way. Going back to Jared or Javon McCormick, who's probably very much underappreciated in this line of point guards. And then, of course, Sharif was fun to watch. And then now Wendell in his own way. Just what does he bring to the table? How much fun is it to watch him? What's the growth maybe been like from last year to this year, where he seems like he's now kind of the point guard one, probably going into the season, where he didn't start many games last year, but how's he taken that on? Just kind of where's he at entering this season, you think?
Yeah, I mean, Wendell, obviously, if you look at him, people will see him. He's changed his body. He's slimmed down a little bit, quickened up. So really worked on that this summer. His offensive game is what it always is. He's always had a chip on his shoulder, being the smaller guy. People have wrote him off, but that's not how we operate here. So, Wendell offensively, you're going to see a lot of the same. He's obviously got excellent range. He's done a better job of getting inside the defense and making plays for himself and for others. But he needs to understand, obviously, when we talk about this all the time, is, when he's in ball screen, he's going to get blitzed and he's going to get tackled, and they're going to try and disrupt him with physicality, and he's got to play through that physicality. So, I think he's ready to do that. But defenses are going to be a little different on him this year. Early in the year last year, teams weren't doing that as much, so he was able to get free and make plays. He's going to have to give it up a little bit more early, I think, for him to get it later in the game, because we have bigs that are able to make plays out of ball screens. So if Wendell, decides to get off of it, those guys can catch it and make plays with the ball. He doesn't have to rely on himself as much to make those plays. So I mean, defensively, Wendell obviously has got to continue to grow in that area, just because, if we do some switching, they're going to try and post him up and make plays. But Wendell, he brings a calmness to our team because he has that poise and he has that experience of playing in a lot of meaningful basketball over the last 2 years. So when he's on the floor, our guys feel at ease. He's got the ability to have 10 assists every single game if he really wanted to, but he's such a good scorer that you can't take that away from him either. We had games last year where we'd go on these ridiculous runs and Wendell's just, like you said, shooting all these crazy shots, but they're going in. They call him Logo Win for a reason, because that's where his comfort zone is shooting that far behind the arc. So, I look for Wendell to continue to be a leader with this group, and obviously lead by example. And, we'll go as far as he goes, right? Our point guards are obviously a big part of what we do. And you touched on that a little bit over the last couple of years. And, when our point guards have good years, Jared, Javon, when those guys have good years, our teams tend to be a little more successful. And we look forward for that to happen a little more this year too.
Yeah, I think back to that game in Tuscaloosa last year. Jabari had a really good game, but Wendell was phenomenal. I mean, some of the plays he made in that game, running the floor, some of the threes he hit were incredible. That game in Tuscaloosa. I remember somebody was at that game, texted me, he's an Alabama fan, texted me and was like, that dude's unstoppable.
Yeah.
He was so good.
Yeah, when he plays with confidence, and he's a confident kid.
Yeah.
I mean, when he's got that swagger and that step and that confidence going, if he sees one go in, like that's going to be a problem for the other team, right? It's when he's not making shots, what else can he do on the floor? And Wendell is capable, when he's not making shots, of still being equally as effective in other ways. And if he continues to do that, we'll be a really good team. But like you said, like if Wendell's making shots, we're going to be really tough to beat. And, obviously we look for him to do that this year.
I think everybody's favorite player to talk about is KD Johnson. Have you ever played or coached with somebody like KD? I mean, playing at Tennessee, that dude is a unique cat. I mean, have you ever played or coached with somebody like him?
Not at that level. No, I mean, he's one of a kind for sure. His enthusiasm, his passion, his energy, it's all just contagious. And I mean, we talk about this all the time amongst our staff, but like Jabari wasn't overly emotional player in high school. You know, he was obviously very competitive. He was very tough. Like, he wanted to win. But you saw last year, KD pulled something out of Jabari that we knew it was there, but we didn't know it was going to come out that quickly. Jabari, played with a little bit of a chip on his shoulder, and he played with a little more emotion because he saw KD doing it, right? And I think that's what KD brings to this team. And he's crazy, but it's good for us and it works. And KD won us some really big road games last year when he just put his head down, got to the rim, and made plays. And by the same token, obviously KD's got to keep that energy in a positive way, right? Because when KD gets down on himself, that can be contagious sometimes, and that's something that you have to grow through with guys like that are highly emotional. Most of the time, it's all really good, but sometimes KD's so hard on himself because KD wants to win so bad that sometimes it turns into negative energy, and KD has done a much better job of channeling that towards a positive direction. And obviously, we need KD to continue to lead by example. And he's another one of those guys that when he's making shots, obviously he's really difficult to guard, but he's as good as anyone in the country of putting his head down, getting by his defender, and at his size, finishing through contact and finishing over bigs. He thinks he gets fouled every single time, but we don't call anything in practice, and KD gets really mad at us for that. But it's because just to get him ready for the SEC. But KD obviously offensively is an explosive, dynamic player, but then defensively, when he's able to make plays and get steals and get us out in transition is where there's a ton of value.
Yeah. A couple of guys that we get asked a lot about are Dylan Cardwell and Chris Moore, kind of unsung guys, I think, that continue to grow and develop. Dylan Cardwell, to me, has come and, man, the strides he's made over the last, I guess, 2 or 3 years is incredible. He looks really good. And even Chris and in the role he plays with this team. Just talk about those two guys. And, are there possibilities? Dylan, we know Dylan's going to play major minutes this year. Chris, we've heard, Bruce talk about Chris a few times this past probably week or 10 days about him maybe having an opportunity to get in the lineup more. What are those two guys that maybe are flying under the radar a little bit, I think, in terms of what they bring to the team, and what could they bring to the team this season, you think?
Yeah, I think, on all successful teams, there's got to be a few less is more guys that really don't require touches for them to be effective. Dylan and Chris are both very, very effective in those roles. Dylan, obviously, if Walker Kessler, wasn't playing the minutes that he played, Dylan, as far as his blocks and his presence defensively, was just as good in the minutes that he played. Walker just played a little bit more than Dylan did. So Dylan was an unbelievable rim protector, moves his feet as well as any big in the country. He can guard 1 through 5. You look at that Alabama game at Alabama when he's switching on Quinterly and just blocking his shot every time he shoots it because he's able to stay down, keep the ball in front. He's paying attention to the scouting report, knows what his move is, and then gets up and contests it and makes plays. Great hands, an explosive dunker around the rim. One of the things that he's really worked on with Coach Flanagan this summer is his jump hooks and just having the confidence to get the ball in the post, be patient, obviously let the defense come to him, take a couple dribbles, and finish over that left shoulder. And that's something that he did a really good job of and working on his game. He just got to apply it to the game now. Flies around, crazy energy, screaming at the crowd, going nuts, like all that stuff. And that's contagious, So Dylan, obviously, but he doesn't require touches. He's going to play hard in his minutes out there, and you don't need to give him the ball because he just wants to go out there, play defense, block shots, get offensive rebounds, get dunks off pick and rolls. He's happy in that role, and that's an effective role for us. And then Chris Moore, last year, not being able to play last year as much, because one, he was injured for most of the year, had some issues with his shin, and playing behind, Al and Devin, just wasn't healthy all year to really give it a go. But in practice, when he was healthy, he was killing our guys because he was just, you saw it on the scout team. He would just put his head down and go dunk on everybody because he was pissed off. And that's the Chris that we're seeing right now. Chris is an absolute monster on the offensive glass. You can't keep him off it. He's going to go get, he'll get 2 or 3 offensive rebounds every single game. And then Chris obviously does a great job of, getting out in transition, going to finish around the rim. He's pretty good off the bounce, getting to the rim and finishing. But, he's not going to be swayed by if he's getting play calls or not. He's out there just playing hard, giving his all, rebounding, doing all the little things that, teams need to be successful. That's what Chris does. And I mean, Chris could easily see himself in the starting lineup if he continues to do what he's been doing over the last few weeks.
Yeah, I remember one of those practices, man. Chris, yeah, you piss him off, and you're like, "Who is this guy? He's an animal." Let's talk about the non-conference schedule a little bit. I think you guys do a really good job of past few years of scheduling really good quality competition. Maybe you can't go out there and get Gonzaga, but you've done a really good job of really good quality competition, tournament type teams that prepare you for the SEC, but also kind of give you an opportunity to rack up some wins. Like it's a good balancing act. And of course, this year you've got some of those as well, Memphis, and then of course USC and Washington. What do you make sort of the non-conference schedule and how you think it might prepare you for, I think, Florida, which is the opener in league play?
And this is probably in our ninth year. This will be our hardest non-conference schedule, just by the numbers. We're going to be on the road at USC, at Washington, at West Virginia. So I think we're the only school in the country to play 3 road games against Power 5 schools in the whole country. So and then on top of that, you add Memphis and a neutral in Atlanta. We got a St. Louis team. It's probably the best St. Louis team they've had in years. It's an NCAA tournament team. So, and then obviously, we always do a really good job, Coach Burgo and BP. We always find mid-majors that are going to be, the best in their league. George Mason is going to be really good in the A-10 this year. Winthrop will be really good in their conference. Like schools like that have had a success, rate of being, good in their conferences, that'll test us. And they all have good numbers. So our net number at the end of the year is always going to be really good because we're playing quality non-conference opponents. They may not be the sexiest names, but, a lot of the schools that play like the Gonzagas and the Dukes will also play a bunch of really bad teams, quad 4s. We're sticking in the quad 1, 2, and 3 range all of non-conference season because we know it's going to get us ready for our league play. And we know it's going to obviously help us in our NCAA tournament seeding as the year goes on. So, and to be completely honest, no one wants to come here and play us. So it's hard to schedule teams when they don't want to come into Neville Arena and obviously, experience the jungle. So, we've done a really good job of being very strategic in who we play, understanding that, we need to get ready for conference play, but we also want to make sure our number at the end of the year is really good.
Yeah, I think back to a couple of years ago when Washington rolled in to Auburn as a top 25 team and just got obliterated. Was that the Final Four team or the year after the Final?
That was Final Four team, yeah.
Yeah.
Final Four team.
And just that was a bad trip. So they'll probably be still remembering that one when you guys go there. Should be a good game. And I like the Memphis game in Atlanta. That should be a really fun game between, I think, Memphis fans and Auburn fans. There should be tons of them in Atlanta. That'll be a fun one too. Auburn's never lost to Memphis in basketball, I think.
We played them back in the COVID year. That was obviously a game. But then having gone back to Atlanta last year and playing Nebraska and having the entire lower bowl filled with Auburn fans was incredible. And it felt like a home game. And, this year, hoping to do the same, getting the Auburn fans to show out. And, obviously they made a huge difference in us being able to win that game. So hopefully it's just as good of an environment this year.
Yeah, that's going to be a fun one. All right, so I told our board, I said, hey, I'm going to be talking to you. Let's toss out some questions if you've got any.
Oh, boy.
And I've got some here that I think might be pretty good.
All right.
We'll roll through some of these. The very first one says, has to be a little weird beating Tennessee the way that you guys have. How does it feel as somebody who played at Tennessee, but then on the Auburn side, it's been really domination the last 5 or 6 years on the Auburn side. And that is kind of interesting. Like you obviously have that tie to Tennessee. You played there, but I guess once you're a coach, man, it's being a pro and it's coaching your guys. But how has it been sort of flipping that switch?
If people have a hard time understanding this, even my friends who I went to school with at Tennessee, people got to understand that Tennessee fired BP. So while I have no love lost for the Tennessee fans and, they're some of the best fans in the country, I don't like Tennessee. I don't, well, obviously coach made mistakes, and obviously paid for those mistakes. He had a barbecue. I mean, you could buy a barbecue restaurant for one of your recruits now, or the NIL program could do that, and it's like, So like for him to get fired for that was, obviously you got to learn from your mistakes, and you can't lie. We understand that, but at the end of the day, like, there's some bad blood there with me at least. So beating Tennessee, like, that's one of my favorite games of the year. One, because they're an incredible program. Coach Barnes has done an amazing job there, building it up to where it's at. They're going to be, they may be the best team in our league this year, honestly. And he's done a great job bringing in great talent and obviously continue to be successful. But for me to not say I don't enjoy beating Tennessee more than anyone in our league would be a lie. And I'm just, I'm not going to do that. So, there's no love lost, but at the end of the day, it's a personal game for me. Coach won't say that, but it's been a fun rivalry, and obviously, like you said, we've had some success against them over the last couple of years. We lost there last year, but I think we'd won 6 straight leading up to that game. So it's been a great rivalry, and obviously, but no, it's not hard for me to coach our guys, and obviously, I'm an Auburn man now. I went to school at Tennessee, but this is where my faith or my loyalties lie for sure.
Yeah, and some of those just straight up led Auburn to championships and denied Tennessee of championships. I mean, they've been some impactful wins on the Auburn side. Of the guys returning, who's made the biggest jump in the offseason? And you can name a couple if you don't want to single anybody out, but who maybe one or two guys for whatever reason, maybe physically, shooting, whatever it might be, leadership, that you've just seen make really nice jumps from last season?
I mean, the two guys we just talked about, Dylan and Chris, both have made great strides in their games and just their impact. Wendell and KD both did a great job this summer of really working on their bodies and cutting down and, being, turning into quicker guards. And, I mean, those are probably some of the guys that really stand out. Our guys did a really good job all summer of working hard and spent a lot of time together in the gym. Obviously, the Israel trip was great for our team. But I think, our culture's always been that way. And, all of our guys have done a pretty good job of continuing to improve on their games. But I think Dylan and Chris, to me, stand out as far as guys that really have taken that next step to further their game.
Obviously, three-point shooting is a big part of what you guys do. We saw towards the end of last year, shooting, the Texas A&M game, the shooting struggled, and Miami, the shooting struggled. And how do you address that? You have similar talent, but Yuan's a pretty good shooter, Chance is a pretty good shooter, but is it just, hey, get in the gym and take more shots? Are there schematic things that you can do to try to get, maybe like Zepp's a better spot up shooter. Hey, how do we get him more opportunities? Like, what can you do to address the shooting and try to create more consistency there throughout the year?
Yeah, I just think it's, speaking of Zepp, like Zepp's probably shooting it as well as anybody on our team right now. So we got to get him more. But at the end of the day, it's going to be about guys, and their percentages, and those guys that have good percentages are going to get the open shots. This team probably will not shoot as many threes as last year's team did. I think I don't know if we averaged like 25 or 30 attempts a year or a game last year. We'll probably be more in like the 20 range this year, just because we have more ability to get the ball inside and score inside. So, but it's a confidence thing. We work on it every single day. We work on shooting drills when they're tired to try and make shots when they're tired. We work on shooting drills in the beginning of practice when they're fresh. So it's not from a lack of us not working on it. I think at the end of the day, it's just guys finding their spots in the offense and getting open, good looks. And then obviously if they see a few go in, obviously they'll have the confidence to keep that going. But, you're right. Last year, early in the year, we were shooting it really well. And at the end of the year, we just kind of hit a slump right there and just didn't shoot it well. And I think that's a big part of why, we didn't continue the success that we had in January and February. So something that we definitely have addressed and made, put our guys on notice. Like guys that are obviously shooting above this mark will continue to get shots. The other guys probably need to pack it up and not look for that three ball as much.
Yeah. It's a pretty interesting question. Are there any things that Bruce does as a coach that didn't make sense when you were a player, but make more sense now that you're on the coaching side of things?
That's deep.
Yeah. That's a good one. Maybe you're like, well, I'm not quite sure, but then you start coaching it and you're like, okay, whether, maybe it's the concept or whatever it is, like, okay, I see why that's so important. I'm sure you see it from players now. They maybe don't get why it's, there's some point where it clicks the why. It's one thing like, I'm supposed to go here, but why am I going here? And then when they figure that out, you're like, oh, okay.
I think the biggest thing that I've kind of learned is the intensity at which he coaches with. And it doesn't matter if it's when we're playing in a scrimmage against the scout team or we're playing against a bad team, or if we're up 30, like he's still coaching as if he's coaching in the game to go to the Final Four. Like he has the same intensity, the same energy, because if he doesn't have that same intensity, our guys aren't. And as a player, I'd always be like, why is he going nuts right now? We're up 25 points, we're killing him. Like, why is he acting like this? Because he doesn't ever change. And as a player, I didn't understand that, because, you would think that you'd let the gas up a little bit, but no, that's just not how he operates. That's never how he's operated. So now there's a level of consistency. You understand, like, it doesn't matter at what point in this game we're in, we could be down 20. He's still going to be coaching hard, because that's just how he's wired. And that's how he's always been. So as a player, I didn't get that. But now as a coach, seeing it from his perspective, I understand why he does it.
Yeah, that's a good one. And one I think we've all seen firsthand. How about this one? For you, as somebody that's obviously learning and growing in the coaching ranks, what are your goals? I mean, do you have aspirations to be a head coach? Are you just kind of enjoying where you're at now and learning it at Auburn and coaching with your dad, and you'll sort of see what the future holds? How are you kind of approaching, I guess, where you are in your career at Auburn and what you got going on right now?
Yeah, I think for me, Justin, I'm in a great spot. Obviously being able to work with my pops, being able to work at Auburn, being an assistant coach at the high major level, like this is an amazing spot for me. Also while understanding with success, there comes opportunity. And, there's been a few things out there over the past couple of years that I've looked at, but it just didn't, it didn't make sense for the position I'm in. I finally got I'm married now. I got my wife down here. We've been down here for a couple of years. So that was a tough recruiting pitch, but she loves it down here now. So I'm in no rush. I'm continuing to obviously learn every single day what what we do. I try and learn from other coaches throughout the summer to try and build on what I do. But obviously the ultimate goal is to be a head coach one day. If an opportunity comes up at another school over the next couple of years that just makes sense, then I think I would jump at it. Would I love to, stay here and ride this thing out and try and be the head coach here one day? If the opportunity presents itself, of course. But that's obviously, that's way down the road, and that's a really difficult thing to do. My dream would definitely be to coach here one day, but at the same time, I got to look at other opportunities that are out there. But right now, I'm really just enjoying the role I'm in. I'm enjoying this team. It's been really fun to be able to build Auburn basketball to where it's at. And I mean, I feel like, I've been a big part of that because I've been here since the beginning with Coach. And obviously I want to continue to build on that. And, at the end of the day, we've been to the Final Four. We want to get back. So, and give ourselves another chance to win a national championship. So that's kind of what we've always been dreaming of doing. And right now I'm just enjoying what I'm doing and just being open to any opportunities that could come up in the future, but trying to stay focused on the task at hand for sure.
Yeah, and you have such a good staff in terms of just cohesion and it doesn't seem like it seems like a kind of staff, whether it's Ira and Wes and Chad and Burgo and the list goes on. It's like I think everybody there's no mincing words. You can all it just, to me, it comes off in recruiting, it comes off in game planning and the consistency of the past few years. You see a good staff, it comes out the way you guys play. I think that's been huge for I think this continuity, right?
I think it speaks to just, Auburn. We've had the same staff for the past 5 years. The only movement there's been is like the GAs because they're only able to be here for a year or two. So it speaks to, one, the culture that we've built here at Auburn, two, like the closeness of our staff, the cohesion of our staff. But three, just everyone's happy. Auburn's taking great care of us. Our families love it here. We love coaching here. We love winning here. And that speaks a lot of volumes about the Auburn family, because you look at college basketball, the landscape of assistant coaches and staffs, people are moving every single year to try and get that next job. And our guys have all wanted to stay and continue to grow and, continue to build on this.
I guess we'll kind of get out of here on this. And that's just, I guess what this team, BP said something interesting the other day. He said expectations might change in terms of, hey, maybe what fans should, not every team, you can't write like Jabari's, okay, he was saying last year, this team can make the Final Four. I mean, he said that. He hadn't said that about this team, but he said, hey, I like my team. He said those kind of things. But he said the goals remain the same, but the expectations might change a little bit. And I remember asking Janai about this, like, hey, how do you come into a program? How has it been sort of coming into a program? You're a big-time transfer, but you're coming into a program that's the defending conference champions. That's the standard now.
Yeah.
How has that been the last couple of years with some of the newcomers that come in and the standards like, hey, we won the league last year. That's the standard. Like, we're not dropping off. Okay, Jabari's gone, but we're picked 4th in the league. That doesn't matter. We're trying to win a championship. How's that sort of championship standard kind of taken over the program the last 2-3 years?
I mean, that's kind of what they're recruited on. They come here understanding that they have a chance. You look at Coach's record in the SEC since he's been here. I think half the seasons that he's coached in the SEC, he's won a championship. So they understand that coming here means that we are expecting to compete and win a championship, at least every other year. And that's what we're trying to do. Understanding it's not easy. It's really hard in this league to win an SEC regular season championship. That's the hardest. I mean, that may be harder than going to a Final Four because you have to win 4 games and get hot. You got to play 18 grueling games against teams that know everything that you're doing. And, and to win that league is an amazing accomplishment. So in the recruiting process, though, that's what they're told. That's what we talk about. That's very apparent that's important to us. And that's what they want to be a part of. So, and you talk back to last year and like Coach talking about the Final Four. Trust me, at the beginning of the year, he was not saying that. When we almost lost to South Florida, he thought we sucked. So, obviously, as the season goes on, things change. The year we went to the Final Four, we're playing at Georgia and we're like 18-9 or something. And Coach is like, how does this team win 18 games? Like, we're just really struggling right now. And then we rack off 10 straight in a row, win an SEC championship, go to a Final Four. So, like you said, things change throughout the season. But that's the beauty of college basketball is, teams can get better throughout the year and teams are able to, obviously improve and make runs. And that's the beauty of it. So the biggest thing for us, thing we talk about all the time is how can we continue to get better every single day? And if we can continue to do that, which I think we've done a pretty good job of so far, we'll continue to have success and hopefully continue to obviously get some rings and raise some banners.
Yeah, it's going to be another fun season of Auburn basketball, no doubt about it. A week away from George Mason. I guess a little over a week away. I guess a week away from exhibition against Alabama Huntsville, and then George Mason comes in, and the season's going, man. Season's going. Well, I appreciate you joining us, man. Anything you want to leave the fans with as they're I know they're itching for basketball. I know they're itching to get back inside Neville Arena. What's kind of your message to them a week out in terms of, just get back in there, getting excited, welcoming them back in the arena and things like that.
Yeah. I mean, just obviously keep doing what you're doing, keep supporting this team, these players. It's the reason why they came here is because, Neville Arena and the jungle and the support we've gotten over the past couple of years has been second to none. So continue to do that. Continue to travel to road games. I think the biggest thing with this group, just, stay patient. This is a group that I think can continue to get better throughout the year because there are so many pieces and these guys have been competing all summer long to try and niche out their roles. And, it's a great group of kids. This group loves Auburn. They're going to play their hearts out for you guys. And, obviously, we couldn't do this without you. So just continue to support, continue to love on this team, these kids. And we're really excited about, November 2nd and November 7th. It's going to be a lot of fun.
All right, man. Appreciate you joining us.
Awesome, Hope. Appreciate you, brother.
Yeah, we'll get this going again here soon once we get into the season. Thanks for everybody listening. AuburnLive.com. Go subscribe. 50% off for a little bit more time. We'll see how long they roll with that. Appreciate everybody joining us. We'll catch you next time.